Hello, I'm Tony, and welcome to the Tony Shap Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This week, I have Dan with us. I'm super excited to interview him. I can't wait for you guys to find out more about who he is and what he's all about. And look at this background, you guys. If you're listening to this, if you're driving, if you're listening to it on iTunes, don't worry about it. When you get to Safe Place, I'll put the YouTube link on the show notes. But if you're watching this on YouTube, take a look at that. That is beautiful. That's the biggest one I've ever, it's the biggest library I've ever interviewed with someone. But anyways, with that said,
biggest library ever. I got to jump in and just give a plug here.
Yeah.
If you're just listening, I'll have to say this is not business books behind me. I'd say it's a shelf full of sci-fi. We've got some games on the side, a Monopoly, a Mealborn. What do you got here? Chess. Mostly
awesome.
Fiction.
That's really cool.
Obviously love business books too, but my real heart is in sci-fi.
That's really awesome, Dan. And so I wanted to personally welcome you to the show. And with that said, let's dive right into it. Let's open us up with the one word open.
One word open. You warned me. I got to say one word. I'd say my word right now, how I'm feeling today in this hour and day and week and month and quarter, and I guess this year so far, is optimism. That's a word that is really important to me as just a core value for even our business and just the way I like to see the world. Optimism, meaning being confident about the future happening the way that you hope it will and planning for it with optimism. There's all sorts of risk management you can do in startup land. And I find the startup roller coaster is real and raw enough in reality. When you're settled in your own head, keep it optimistic, and that helps you ride the roller coaster.
That is awesome, man. Thank you so much. Let's talk about your business. So if you could share with us your why and then how you got started and where you are today and where you're going, that would be wonderful.
Sure. I guess I'll start with the what of the moment, and then I can rewind to kind of how we got to here. But the what of the moment is Sharethrough is a global ad exchange. We're one of the largest independent ad exchanges. We sit between publishers and advertisers, acting as a direct conduit that allows advertisers to transact with publishers on essentially buying and earning attention across the web. We're an open web ad exchange in that we're not running ads in games and apps and Facebook and Twitter. We're talking about powering the ads on the open internet, the .coms, the rollingstone.coms and the yahoo.coms, which has actually had a resurgence, and the Hearst magazines, publications, the newspapers, magazines, sort of independent web that, in my opinion, is critically important for kind of the evolution of human thought and communication, and just being able to have an open platform and open web for content and journalism and news and stories to thrive, to me, is a really important mission. And so we exist as a tech platform, mostly for big businesses. We work with all the major ad holding companies, all the major publishers, and we do have some sort of SMB, smaller customers on both sides. But mostly we're talking about Coca Cola and Procter and Gamble and Nestle and Unilever using demand side platforms, they're called, so advertising buying platforms, to run across a whole bunch of different sites on the internet, with Sharethrough as one of the premium organic direct supply sources that they get to use inside those DSPs. And on the publisher side, it's us working with the Hearsts and the Gannett's and, like I said, Rolling Stones of the world to help them find interesting places to sort of create supply on their sites, create ad placements that aren't the traditional boxes in the corners or the pop-ups or the interstitials, but are much more integrated, much more human, and just much more respectful to the user. And so we see our business as like sort of a modern human-centric approach to advertising, in that advertising doesn't have to just be about forcing someone to, this is what I do sometimes, but like forcing them to hold their eyes open and see your ad, almost like Clockwork Orange style. Advertising can be earned, advertising can be respectful. And our approach here is if you can bring sort of a human-centric mindset to advertising, to the actual user experience of the ad, the way that it renders to the page, the respect that you give it, that if you give the respect to the user will respect the marketer. And so we've tried to carry that thread through everything that we do. That's the what of the moment, and maybe kind of esoteric. The other like buzz phrase I'd throw around that is programmatic. if anybody's in media land or advertising land, the future of advertising is programmatic, meaning it's not faxing and emailing and sending orders between buyers and sellers, but about technology, working with technology, and humans using technology to transact with each other the same way a stock market works. So we're a programmatic advertising platform, and I think we're number 3 or number 4 largest independent private ad exchange. There are a handful of public companies like Magnite and PubMatic and obviously Google and Verizon, others. But outside the public companies, I think we're the 4th largest global ad exchange. Happy to talk about the why and happy to talk about the history, but maybe I'll let you jump in.
No, that was beautiful. No, please continue. I love, let's go move on to the why and the history.
Sure. So if I rewind all the way to the beginning, I came out of a Stanford research program in something called persuasive technology, oftentimes called like behavior change design. So how do you design for behavior change? And was doing a pretty deep intellectual, academic, rigorous, like air quotes research. And when I say air quotes, I guess I mean literally research, maybe capital R research is the way to put it, that we were doing research at Stanford in this lab, and I was a graduate student, into how do you use computers to change human behavior for good. And by good, I mean, I guess for the long term, but also I mean like for positive good, positive change around health, around folks quitting smoking cigarettes. We did some research around getting kids to go to school more often. So it was a handful of things like that around how do you use technology to persuade people to change their behavior for good. And there were a bunch of different incredible frameworks that popped out of that. But the one that really stuck in my head and that really got me going onto this path of Sharethrough today is that if your goal is to persuade someone to change behavior and you come in out of left field and try to tell them to stop what they're doing and do your thing, that is a much harder path to behavior change than stepping in lockstep with them, taking some steps with them, and being part of the flow or the path that they're already on. If you're trying to get someone to change their behavior, coming to them and bringing something to them that's just fits within their existing experience, within the goal they're trying to already reach, or within the mindset that they're already in, that's a much more potent way to change a behavior than to someone come in from left field and smack you over the head with a tennis racket and say, hey, come with me. I know you're going this way, but let's take a left turn and come over to me. And a lot of advertising traditionally is that you're trying to watch a TV show and it stops mid-sentence and says, here's my ad, Geico, 15%. We'll save you 15 minutes. We'll save you 15% your car insurance. And that's not the mindset I'm in at all. I'm not thinking about car insurance. I'm not trying to buy car insurance. I'm trying to watch a TV show. I'm trying to watch Oprah interview Meghan Markle or whatever. Like, I'm not looking for content from an advertiser at that moment. I'm not looking for random offers or coupons. I'm looking for just the narrative arc of what I've been thinking about. And so there's a reason that advertising that's integrated works so well in TV and elsewhere, in that if it's integrated and LeBron is wearing those Nike shoes, or Steph Curry is wearing that Under Armour wristband or something, you don't need to stop me. That's just part of the flow. And if the announcers are talking about LeBron's shoes and how he's can jump higher, run faster than ever before related to his shoes, like that is advertising, but it's a much more integrated form of advertising. Sometimes I even talk about it like the NASCAR type of advertising versus that Steph Curry Under Armour type. NASCAR, you're talking about a sticker on the side of a car. And often that sticker has nothing to do with driving. It's just a sticker of Geico's logo on the side of a car. Mm-hmm. The car goes around a track 100 times and sure, people see the logo, but like, what's the connection? Versus again, the Steph Curry Under Armour shoe thing. If I'm a 15-year-old kid thinking about my next pair of shoes that I want for my basketball class, I'm looking at the best shoes I can think of, and the best shoes I can think of are on the best player I can think of, and they're sort of integrated with one another. And so that's what we try to bring to the advertising market, and that's where our company came from, which was to say, what if we can make the design principles behind advertising as integrated and as respectful and as human-centric and just thoughtful as so many of the other triggers and so many of the other behavior changes that all these other digital platforms try to implement. Started that in 2008, I guess. It took us like a real long time, I guess I would say, to find the the through line to take that from a small idea to a market. And it started as almost an engineering problem. How do we make ads fit in? How do we make the ad fit in more naturally to the page? I and my co-founder worked together and obviously built a team and raised venture capital and built sort of a standard Silicon Valley company around this, but spent years, probably 3, 4, 5 years building the technology. How do you make an ad fit in better? But what started as that engineering problem grew and grew and blossomed into more of a business problem. How do you make this standard? How do you make this integrated to the existing sort of ecosystem of advertising? And what's amazing, and we can maybe use this as a jumping off point, is that what started as this business problem then really became more of a movement. More of a movement around advertising, moving towards something more respectful, something more human, something more privacy centric, and just something more, I guess the word I often use is just respectful. Advertising and respect don't usually go together. And our spirit and our sort of underlying truth is that if you can make advertising respectful, it will perform better. And so it's not just a noble cause to hopefully make the world better. We're talking about if advertising is more respectful and it performs better, then the marketer has a higher return on investment, the publisher makes more money, the user is happier and they come back to the site more often. And to me, it's sort of almost like free performance, where the secret ingredient or the catalyst for that performance is actually just respect. It's not like you're putting more money into it or more other ingredients. The ingredient you're putting in is respect. And when the ad fits the page and respects the user, it doesn't always work. I mean, there's plenty of ads that don't work. But if you think about the ads that are the most potent, they're the ones on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, LinkedIn. Those are not traditional ads. Those are integrated ads. They're the ones that fit the experience. They feel like they're part of the site. Some would call them native, and we really pushed hard on this concept of native advertising. That was kind of the movement that we started, but it's expanded far beyond that. What started as native advertising has become now more just all advertising can be done with respect, and so that's the approach that we're taking today, building a scalable, global programmatic ad exchange, but underpinned with this concept of respectful advertising across all formats, all channels, all formats, native, display, video, soon to be TV, and mobile, web, tablet, etc. Wow. That's a long story, but I'll let you jump in and poke on whatever angle you want.
No, that was deep. I love it. I got a huge education on that. So, and I know our listeners did as well. So I really appreciate you going into that because you gave us the whole context. That was beautiful. Let's talk about a recent win, Dan. So if you could share with us a recent win that you've experienced and what you learned from it, that would be great.
Cool. Well, we're coming off of a big win, I guess I would call it, in that 12 years later, after having started this company and grown it to almost 100 million in revenue at this point, probably 200, 300, maybe 400 people through the company over the years, venture capital, the whole roller coaster of standard startup stuff. So I guess I'm just throwing those points out to say, like, I've experienced that roller coaster over 12 years now. 12 years later, we just announced that we decided to merge our company with another company of almost equal size, creating now, like I said earlier, the number 3, maybe number 4 largest independent ad exchange across the web. We merged with a company called District M, which is a similar and well-respected company to us actually in Canada. And so now we're a multinational North American company, headquarters both in Montreal and San Francisco, and kind of a sub-headquarters in New York. Though at this point, I'm not sure what a headquarters means anyway. Our headquarters is my room here, and other folks'
awesome library,
homes and libraries and home offices and whatever else. But so really exciting. I mean, maybe win isn't the right way to frame it, but it is a win in that it was, to me, an acceleration. It was a way of us saying, hey, we've grown and grown and grown. And what started as, again, this engineering problem turned into a business problem, which we standardized the market for and grew a business around, which then turned into this movement that's really birthed a huge market. How do we play a bigger role in that huge market? And being each of us independently a top 10 company lets you sort of knock on the door, from the adults table or from the kids table to the adults table, I'd say. And being able to combine and now be number 3, number 4 really gives us kind of a long-term sustainable seat at the quote adults table of advertising.
Well, congratulations on that acceleration. That's going to help you further drive your mission. That's pretty cool. Let's move on to a recent not so win quickly. So what would that be? I know we say, failures, and that's like a bad word to use sometimes, but let's just say not so win. So what's a not, if anything recent you experienced, and with that said, what did you learn from it, Dan?
Sure. So I love failures, and Silicon Valley, I think, has really embraced the concept of failing fast over the past decade or so. And so I'll use that advice here to frame this. That I guess I give a lot of advice to entrepreneurs, but one track of advice I give is around the two things: speed and patience. That as a CEO or a founder, or, any entrepreneur, even a product manager, you have to have a combination of speed and patience. Speed being when you know something in your gut, just if you know you need to cut this product or this feature or this, you need to change the structure of the team, or you need to make it some sort of hard decision, and you just kind of know it in your gut. Speed is a key. You got to move fast. But patience, when you have conviction on something and you really stop and say, yeah, no, I have conviction, it's not working yet, or it's not working at the scale I want yet, or something. I'm not saying, go crazy and cut every edge. If you have conviction, you need to have the patience. I'm talking from the seat, I guess, of a 12-year entrepreneur here so far. But speed and patience. And so I guess my biggest fail and way to really sort of learn this lesson in recent history is our business clearly is a programmatic first ad exchange business, on a pretty amazing rocket ship on the programmatic exchange part. But we had another product that was sort of horizontal and built for the same customer archetypes for publishers, but not really. It didn't really have product market fit, and we knew that. We knew that this product for publishers, though it was being used by some publishers, just didn't really have like a long-term product market fit. And while it was revenue, I think we had something like $1 million of revenue across this product. We just knew that it was not going to scale, and it was not going to, dollars put into it were not going to be long-term valuable for us and for our customers even. But we're pretty slow with accepting that reality, pretty slow, and a lot of inertia, I think, with like continuing to build features, because when customers want your product and they're asking for features, it's hard to not want to give it to them. But I think I learned a lesson there around, look, once you know, and in this case, we probably actually had a lot of conviction that we knew that this wasn't going to be a long-term product. You need to just pull focus away from it, pull resources away, and just face that reality quickly, especially even just for internal team. Product managers and engineers and other folks, they want to work on the future, and they want to work on building something that we know is on a potential path for long-term major growth. Nobody really wants to work on a product that is going to at some point be shelved. And so to me, that advice there is just sort of reinforcing the speed point.
That's beautiful, especially when you're up to creating a bigger future. You got to make sure it's you're going the right direction.
Yeah, it's hard tension though, because if you're a PM or a founder and you have customers who are paying you asking for features, it's hard to look at that and say, oh man, let's not build those. That's what we're wired for. When you find a problem, you want to solve it. When you find customers who want features, you want to build them. And so you just need to kind of balance the conviction and patience in the long run with just the speed when you really know something in your gut.
Yeah, Dan, I couldn't agree with you more. It's easier to say yes, but it's so much harder to say no. So when your customer is telling you that, hey, do this one feature, you're like, I want to say yes, but if it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
And you know that better than anyone else. And I love, all the gems you're sharing with us, because you're speaking from personal experience, and you've had this huge run rate of growth and success. So what you're sharing with us is not based on theory or hypothetical, it's actual. So I'm super honored about that. I just wanted to acknowledge you for that as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. Definitely have lived the roller coaster, and I've found my zen within that startup roller coaster.
Totally, dude. You got to find it. Let's move on to expenses. At a high level, what's your largest expense that you have currently?
Well, you might be angling for a question of like AWS or Snowflake or something like that, but the real truth for our business, and maybe not all businesses, but for almost all venture-backed startup type businesses, is people.
Yeah.
I think the number is probably 80%, maybe 70% of our expenses are salaries and benefits for people. and I guess it sounds pithy to say it, but like people are your most important expense. People are your most important asset. People are most important resource. Like all of those words actually sound strange when you say them out loud. Ultimately, people are what make a company. The
100%.
people and people's commitment and intellectual energy and drive that they bring every day is what differentiates a successful company from a failure. And so to me, the most important part of our company has always been people. And the most rewarding part of a company is being able to hire aspirationally and then see somebody grow through the company. You know, I don't know exactly how many people have come through our company over the years, but over 12 years, it actually probably is like 500 or something over the course of 12 years. And there's so many of them that I'm just so proud of because they came through the company, learned, taught us a lot, built a lot together, graduated and moved on to the next thing. And some of them are now founders and CEOs and product managers and doing all sorts of diverse things, outside of our world, but alumni of the company. And
Mhm.
you know, again, there's the most rewarding thing for me as an entrepreneur. Maybe this is because I'm a dad of 2 kids too, but the most rewarding thing is just seeing people kind of grow through the company. Not just grow up, which I guess we've seen too.
Yeah.
Maybe in some ways I've also grown up through this company. I was 23 when we started this company.
Wow.
Uh, but yeah, just seeing people grow through it is the most rewarding thing of this company. And if you tie it back to your question about expenses, I guess it's seeing the energy and the money we put into hiring and growth and benefits and just building a healthy culture for growth, seeing that pay off in people's personal lives and business lives outside the company too,
Mhm, mhm.
is just tremendous.
I love it. The way it occurred for me when you were describing that and you were sharing your experience and also, describing your expenses and how people are important, team, all that good stuff. The way it occurred for me, Dan, is, your people are an investment. That's what I got from what you said. You're investing
For
in your
sure.
future. That's really powerful.
What's so amazing though is that when you invest in a stock or something, you win or you lose. And like maybe the stock kind of appreciates your investment, but not really. When you invest in people, you can win. It's rare that you lose.
Yeah.
But also the person that you're investing in has so much value that they get out of that investment,
Mhm.
that's sort of the undercurrent of all Silicon Valley is we're all building each other up and
Yeah.
growing together. And when one person comes through one company for 4 years, they come out the other side of it smarter, more self-aware, more experienced, and just more valuable for whatever they do next.
Absolutely. So I could honestly say that we've hit our stride, and consequently, I would love to ask you this next question. Um, it's just going to be a tough one,
Okay.
but if you could give one advice, I know there's many gems you've given us, but if that founder is listening and they're taking notes every podcast episode that I do or any podcast they listen to, and they just have one takeaway,
Mm.
like under 5 words, what would that be for that founder?
Well, I'm going to give you one that's 5 words and one that's a little bit longer.
Sounds good.
One is marry the problem, not the solution.
Mm.
There's so many founders who fall in love with the solution. We built an app, we built a feature, we built a system that does X, Y, Z. And then you go around the market. Hey, do you have that problem? Do you have that problem? Do you want to buy our product? How can I make my product better? What features do you want? And
Holy.
you're married to the solution. And what happens is if a customer goes, you know what, I don't really have this problem. If you're married to that solution, it's pretty difficult to say, okay, well, let me throw that whole thing away. Talk to me about your problems. If you marry the problem in the first place and you say, I want to get married to this problem that I'm solving, the solutions can come and go. And the market
Wow.
changes too. And so if you can, again, you have to be married to something. Like you can't just start a company and not care. You have to care. So you have to really get married to the problem that you're working on.
Yeah.
But what it'll do is it'll force you to get inward. It'll force you to get articulate about that problem, deliberate about that problem, and know when the problem space changes. And when you go to a customer talking about solutions, that's a whole different flavor of discussion than going
Yeah.
to a customer talking about problems. Hey, what problems do you have? This is what I see your counterparts are having at similar companies. This is the way I see your problem. Is this right? maybe I have this problem myself. Let's talk about it together. That's the way that you level up organizations. You level up the humanity of the types of conversations you're having. You can go in and do a whiteboard brainstorm about features, but it's much more potent to go in and have a conversation about problems and like what problems you're really solving.
Yes, that was awesome. Thank you so much. And as sadly as we're coming to a close, if our listeners wanted to find out more information about your business, can you share with us how they can connect with you guys?
Sure. Dan@sharethrough.com is my email if you're interested and want me to send anything or just say hi. Or Twitter, I'm D Greenberg on Twitter.
Perfect. I'll definitely put that in show notes. And then what's that one question I should ask you, Dan, that I didn't ask?
Folks sometimes ask me, like, how did you learn all this? I didn't come from an advertising background. How do you learn this stuff? And I do have some advice I give that I've been sort of evolving this advice over time, but I do believe that this is valuable. I call it pattern strategy. That if you go into the market with a real pattern-based mindset, and you turn every meeting or every observation or every customer interaction into some sort of pattern or some sort of trend or some sort of hypothesis, when you go into the next meeting, you can say, hey, I've been observing a pattern. It looks like folks in your market are running into this problem in this situation. Are you guys seeing that too? And maybe the next meeting says, yeah, you're right. That is a problem I've been seeing. Let's talk about it. Or maybe they go, nah, not really, actually. So you dig in, okay, tell me more. Well, the next meeting, you present that concept again. Okay, hey, I've been observing from your counterparts, from other CEOs in your industry, or from other marketers, or from other real estate agents in your industry, whatever it is, that they seem to be running into this situation, or they seem to be using this new tool, or they seem to be thinking about this new theme. Are you also? And that just takes a conversation way beyond a sales pitch or a customer interview. And it actually allows you to turn more into an expert. Because if I'm let's say, I don't know, I said real estate agent. So if I'm a real estate agent, I may be talking to other real estate agents, but also like maybe they're kind of competitive with me. If I can have somebody who's seeing the market forest for the trees and bringing me insight into what's going on in my own market, I'm going to open up to that person and tell them my own story and my own challenges, my own problems. And so just having a different way to put it is like having a point of view. If you can walk in and have a point of view about a market or a point of view about a problem, it gets people talking much more about the reality and the details way faster, way more openly, and just allows you to be more of a normal person versus a vendor customer interaction or a seller buyer interaction. So I call it pattern strategy. I'm sure other folks give advice like this too, but it's been working for me, and I'm going to continue using it.
I have to say, that was so moving and powerful for me, and no one else has given that advice before, actually. So thank you so much for that. And I could truly say this has been an amazing conversation, and I'm deeply thankful for everything that you share with us. And I'm looking forward to having you back on here in the future to talk about how you're also accelerating other things that you're doing and the new venture that you talked about. So sign us off.
I really appreciate the positivity and the love.
Of course.
Good way to start a Monday morning.
100%. I love the energy. Sign us off with a one-word close, Dan.
Onward.
Onward. There you have it. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and great to have you, and thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Till next time, onwards and upwards.